Hey, good morning or good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining our session. The session is named the Windows Virtual Desktop Magic Show, with Nerdio Manager for WVD playing the leading role, of course. So we don't have much time today, so I would like to spend most of my time for the next 20 to 25 minutes or so showing you guys all sorts of automation magic, if you will. So automation fun. First, I would like to share some of my contact details. So if you guys would like to get in touch after the presentation, next week, next month, all fine by me. I would love to have a chat. And of course, also don't forget to visit our booth as part of the iGel Disrupt conference. Let me hop over to my demo environment, which you will see here. Now, I'm not going to go over all of the steps needed to install Manager for WVD because it's too easy. You just hop over to the Azure portal, search for Nerdio, and select Manager for WVD. Follow the standard Azure wizard, and you'll be done within 30 to 45 minutes. That's all there is to it. Then you will end up in this graphical user interface, which of course to start out with will be empty because you won't have anything configured or any existing WVD environments that have been onboarded and so on and so forth. So let me start with that part. Let's have a look under settings. Multiple things to have a look at, but here I'd like to focus on linked networks and linked resource groups. Now, if you have an existing WVD deployment already, all you need to do is link the network and link the resource group where that deployment is deployed into. Hop over to Workspaces, depending on if it's an older or newer version of WVD that you're using, of course. Do a page refresh and you'll see it pop up right here. Then you will be able to use a button which will say Associate Workspace with Manager for WVD, of course, not in that many words, but you get the idea. You can do that, will take a couple of seconds, and then after that you will be able to also associate the underlying host pools and the VMs hosts as part of those host pools. Very straightforward. Now let me hop over into an existing workspace that we have and show you how easy it is to add in a dynamic host pool. And by the way, you can see dynamic host pools and static host pools here. The only difference is that with a static host pool, you would add in hosts manually and remove hosts manually. And with a dynamic host pool, we have the Autoscale engine doing all of that work for you. Starting machines, stopping machines, building machines, removing machines, monitoring machines, auto heal machines, messaging users, and so on and so forth. Right, adding in a dynamic host pool. Give it a name, pretty straightforward, right? Give it a description if that's something you would like to use as well. And choose your desktop experience. The top one means a hosted shared environment. The second one is published applications, basically. And the third one and the fourth one is a VDI type deployment where you would deploy virtual machines in a one-to-one relation. And this one would mean non-persistent desktops, sorry for that, and this one would mean personal assigned desktops. And we have a separate auto-scaling engine for that as well, which I'll briefly show you once we are finished with this part of the demo. Give it a name, and this is the name prefix to be a bit more precise. So this name will be used by the Autoscale engine to give all of your machines a unique name, and it will also be able to reuse that name. It will use your name prefix together with an alphanumeric string that it will automatically generate, and it will append it to your name prefix. That way, all of your machines as part of a dynamic host pool will always have a unique name. And like I mentioned, when a machine is added, it gets a unique name. Removed is completely removed or shut down, depending on which type of machine it's working with. But then afterwards, once a machine is booted or added again, it will be able to reuse that same name again, which you'll see on the next screen as well, which is of course handy for GPOs, whitelisting, certificates, and all those types of things. Select the network to connect to, and of course an image to apply to these machines. I'll just select a random marketplace image, but we'll get into image management, applying those images to existing host pools, and those types of things, importing images, importing VMs in just a couple of minutes after the Autoscale part. We can work with any VM size available on the Azure platform as well, together with the various OS disks that are available. So APIs in the background basically doing their work. Select a resource group to deploy this dynamic host pool into. And you can also choose to already quickly assign users or groups of users. I always do that afterwards and show that afterwards because you will have a much better overview. Now this will take about, the host pool name is already in use, so you can see how it helps with that as well. Let's use a different name. Click OK. There we go. This will just take about 10-12 seconds, and what it's doing now, it's loading up the Autoscale configuration page for us then to turn on, and that's where we would configure, or where we can configure, how many machines we would like to have part of this host pool and how the Autoscale engine needs to react on changes within the host pool itself. Come on, just a couple of seconds more, there we go. Autoscale turned off by default, turning on with the flip of a switch, and here we can see the information we just configured, together with reusing host names or not. You can turn it off as well. Now these are all fields freely for you guys to fill in, to configure, select configuration options from the drop-down menus and so on and so forth. And these will all have a direct impact on your monthly minimum and maximum costs with regards to the underlying compute and storage resources as part of your WVD deployment. So let me turn 5 into 2, and you can see the prices change as well. Back to 5, back to 2, well, you get the general idea, of course. Now here we configure the host pool size. We tell the Autoscale engine in this particular example, we would like to have 2 machines as part of this host pool at all times, and one of those machines needs to be in a booted state, meaning the other one will be shut down. Now if user demand increases, it will boot up the other machine as well, and when both of those machines are running and it's still not enough to handle the user load, we can also tell the engine to build 1, 2 or many more machines on top of the base host pool capacity to help with that user load. Now that's part of the scaling logic, because before this will happen, something else needs to happen first, of course. So here we can tell the Autoscale engine that, for example, if CPU usage, or you can work with average active sessions, available sessions, we are working on some other stuff as well. But let's take CPU usage as an example. So you can tell the Autoscale engine that it needs to build a new host, one or multiple again, depending on what you would like to configure, when CPU utilization exceeds 65% for 5 minutes or longer, and do the same thing with removing one or multiple hosts or shutting down one or multiple hosts when it drops below 40% for 5 minutes or a longer period of time. And again, configurable are these fields as well. Now, very handy, but we would like to combine this with a couple of other detailed options. So here, for example, we can configure, let's say, as of 6 p.m. at night until 7 or 8 in the morning. So now we tell the Autoscale engine, as you can see in this text as well, that it is only allowed to shut down machines and remove machines between these times. Also meaning vice versa, during work hours, we will leave those machines alone. We will still build new machines and boot machines, but we will not stop them or completely remove them. So the idea behind that, of course, is that your users will be productive, will have active sessions, and you don't want to bother them during daytime. You can still can do that, of course, if that's something you would like to do, but we see this applied or sort of the configuration like this in practice very often. Now we can combine this with the scale in aggressiveness, which gives it even more detail. Excuse me. This can be set to high, medium, or low. And if you set it to high, it means that once the Autoscale engine is allowed to shut down machines and remove machines, it will first put the machines in drain mode, then it will look for empty machines first, and then it will look for machines with the least number of active sessions, and it will start to follow that route. First, users will be notified, and then 10 minutes after that, or 15, 30, whatever you would like to configure here, the machines will be shut down or scaled in. If you set it to medium, sort of the same thing, drain mode, empty machines first, but then it will look only for machines with disconnected sessions, and it will leave all of the other machines alone. We have low as well, again drain mode, and then it will only look for empty machines, and it will leave all of the other types of machines with other types of sessions alone. So this is how we take care of the user experience, cost optimization, and the fine line between the two. And by the way, you can set this to 0 as well if that's something you would like to do, to go for 100% cost optimization, for example. So this way you will make sure that you will only have machines running when you want to have them running, saving on resources, well, big time you could say. In between we have the pre-staging of hosts, meaning on certain days you can have a certain number of machines configurable again at a certain time, up and running, booted in a booted state, to take care of login storms, boot storms, and those types of things. And all this, by the way, works together great with ephemeral OS disks as well. Messaging we took care of. Auto heal, also a very cool option available and used by a lot of customers. So the WVD agent can give back certain statuses. You can add in as many as you would like. You basically create a rule together with no active sessions, no sessions, or has active sessions. And then if this happens, you can tell the Autoscale engine what to do with that particular VM. Perhaps reboot it multiple times with so many minutes in between, and or leave as is, or completely remove and recreate the machine, because that's what the auto-scaling engine is good at. Rejoin it to the domain, apply an image, reinstall agents, and so on and so forth, which will definitely solve your issue. So we're still configuring a dynamic host pool, meaning 2 machines at least, with one booted and one shut down. I will click save and see what happens. First, it will kick off the Autoscale process, and I need to go down a bit. It will kick off the Autoscale process, as you can see on the screen as well. And then after 10 to 15 seconds, it will come up with 2 separate jobs, creating both of those machines. And hopefully they will pop up quickly, because I would like to show you guys that. I don't think we will have time to see them completed fully, because that will take like 20-25 minutes. We don't have that much time, but there you can see, there we go. Click on the details and you can see exactly what's going on. This will auto refresh as well. What time, what day, what date, by which user, though this is an automated task, of course. Very handy to have. You can always hide these details, but you can always go over to loggings, filter on all these types of things. For example, all of the tasks that are available that Manager for WVD can do for you, like adding in hosts, for example. Let's see, those are canceled, complete. Let's have a look at this one. So you can see all of the steps included with creating, building up a new machine. And we also enabled you guys to directly download various loggings from the underlying VM, as you can see here as well, for troubleshooting purposes, for example, which are also available on a per VM basis also. Let me hop over back to Workspaces, and let's have a look at personal assigned desktops. I'm not going to start all over, but just show you the configuration, because this is sort of the same thing. It just looks a bit different. Again, we have working hours, power of aggressiveness instead of scale and aggressiveness, power of timing, and so on and so forth. So this will make sure you won't have any machines running when you don't want to have them running. Again, saving on underlying costs. Now, this particular part, so auto-scaling for personal assigned persistent desktops, can be combined with a specific role that we have built in. So role-based access, we have multiple, of course, so very handy to see those as well. Small differences between the two. The end user role is a sort of a special one, which I'd like to focus on in this case. So if any of your users have a personal assigned desktop plus the end user role assigned within Manager for WVD, those users will be able to log into Manager for WVD themselves, and they will be able to start, stop, and restart their own machines, giving them more flexibility, responsibility, whatever you would like to call it. So that's a very cool one to have handy also. All right, let's hop over back to Workspaces. And if you go over to an existing host pool, have a look at properties, for example, you will see a ton of things that are configurable on a per host pool basis. Now, all of this is configurable under settings as well. So that would mean here. So for example, on the integrations, you can see a lot of those options pop up here as well. So this is sort of the default, the base configuration, and then per host pool, you can divert from this main configuration, if you will. So if you would like to add Azure files, for example, we have a wizard ready to go. All you need to do is fill in the fields and select the configuration options from the drop-down menus, including joining it to your domain as part of Active Directory. All will be done for you, fully automated, and everything that needs to be done on the underlying Azure platform will be done for you as well. Average Logic's profile storage containers, or the storage locations for those, you can fill those in here together with the various registry options you would like to use. And as you just saw, this can all be changed per host pool as well, so you can divert from this default configuration. Various monitoring options, a REST API. We have the same automated wizard for Azure NetApp files as well. And as you can see, you can work with different Active Directories, which you just saw pop up on a per host pool level as well. So let me go back to that example. Under properties, here you go, Active Directories. Like I just mentioned, we can work with different Active Directories per host pool, different organizational units, and those types of things. You can tag your resources. You can enable and disable Average Logic's profile containers on a per host pool basis, or use the defaults, meaning the configuration under settings, for example, or divert from that, use a different storage location, different registry options, whatever you would like to do. If we then have a look at VM deployment, we have a lot of eye for detail. So too much to go over in detail now, of course, but as you can see, a lot of integrations, a lot of things will be automated, set up for you guys if you select them basically. You can run scripted actions. We have a separate library for that as well, so you can use the predefined ones, or you can work with your own custom-made scripted actions, which will then be applied per host pool, or can be applied per host pool, and so on and so forth. So like I mentioned, you can tag your resources like here, which would be tagging your normal resources on the native Azure platform, but just within Manager for WVD. All of the custom RDP settings are directly available per host pool as well, including the more advanced ones. Easy to get to. You will know exactly what it is that you are configuring. So very straightforward to manage those as well. Don't have to use DPOs for that anymore. Properties, let me see. You can enable, disable various monitoring solutions and session time limits, configurable per host pool. Also very handy because these work, as you can remember, in conjunction with autoscaling, for example. So when does an idle session needs to be in a disconnected state or turn into a disconnected state, multiple options to choose from, and so on and so forth. So very handy to have that present as well. Let's hop over to image management. We have multiple ways how we can import existing VMs, for example, and existing images, and then manage those through Manager for WVD. So if you have an existing Azure VM, all it needs to be is a managed disk. So we can copy over and paste the source URL. Have a look at some of the other options, and as you can see here, down here as well, again, a lot of eye for detail. So a lot of things you can do additionally on top of adding in this specific VM for image management purposes, or for creating new machines purposes, I should say. Run custom PowerShell code, use the scripted actions again, directly from the library as mentioned before. And if you click OK, it will take 15, 20, 25 minutes, depending a bit on the region, how busy it is, and so on and so forth. From the Azure library, same options available, but a lot more options when it comes to image import options. So we can import marketplace images directly, for example. We can work with Azure custom images, and also a direct integration with the shared image gallery, for example. Now, if you do not want to import these images, you don't have to. You can also select them when creating a new host pool, for example, or when re-imaging an existing host pool. It will work in exactly the same way. But of course, if you do import those, you will have the management options available here as well. For example, let's power one on. You can make a backup for one or multiple weeks first. If the retention period expires, it will only throw away the backup and it will leave the original image alone. And then when it's powered on, this button will turn into shut down and set as image. It will say something like that, and you will be able to first use the IP address to RDP into your image, make your changes, install software, apply patches, security updates, you name it, whatever you would like to do. Then click this button, and then the sealing of the image together with sys prepping and so on and so forth will all be done for you. And you'll be not limited to the max 8 sys preps per image, for example. Now, if you have made multiple backups, for example, you can do restore, and then you have versioning as well. So you can go back in time if it doesn't work out, in production test, whatever the case may be. Of course, you can start a backup manually. You can delete it. You can also clone it over to another region, for example, if you select a network in another region. And here you have some of the same options as with adding in an Azure VM or adding in an existing image from the library, for example. And again, OK, if you click OK, it will take 15 to 20 minutes and so on and so forth. Let me see. Set as image can be done manually as well, and so on and so forth. So if you import an image, you can use all of this directly from within Manager for WVD. And then if you hop over to an existing host pool and select, for example, hosts, resize, re-image, you will be able to select the desktop image you may have just updated, or one directly from the Azure Marketplace. Or again, if you don't want to import certain images for whatever reason, you can directly select a custom image here, or shared image gallery image, and so on and so forth. Choose what you would like to do with the VM size, OS disk, how many hosts would you like to have updated at the same time, parallel to each other, and how many things are allowed to fill, basically. You can tell that as well. This can all be scheduled and even be repeated if that's something you would like or need to use. And again, if it runs into machines with still active sessions, those users will be notified in 10 minutes, 15, 30, whatever you configure. After that, the machine will actually be re-imaged. As part of that process, we will leave the underlying VM NIC resource alone, which also means DNS won't change, IP addresses will stay the same, so you don't have to worry about that as well, together with the host names that we can also reuse, like mentioned before. Right, okay, so that's image management. Now let me hop over to scripted actions, so you guys have seen that as well. Pretty basic, but very, very powerful to use. You can view all of the scripts that we made available for you, of course. You can clone them, perhaps reuse the code, alter them slightly, do whatever you would like to do. And in your own scripts as well, and build out your own library. So very handy to have all of this in the same solution as well. So we always try to hide all of the complexity for you, but if you still need custom code for whatever reason, you can use scripted actions, you can apply PowerShell code per host pool, as I've showed you before as well, and all those types of things. Now we have built Manager for WVD in a very flexible way. It's built out of various platform as a service services, meaning very powerful, but also flexible from a development perspective. So we come out with new versions of the software at least once a month, and sometimes even multiple times per month, like we did in January of this year as well. So the last one will always be on top. It's a non-disruptive process, and all you need to do is click deploy. You can do it during production hours, even as most companies still don't do that, but you can if you want to. And it will take 5 to 10 minutes depending on how big the update is, and so on and so forth. So you will have full control over that as well. Something that's also new is working with notifications. You can set multiple conditions and then tell it what to do, tell it who to email, when something has happened, when something has failed, when something has been configured, and so on and so forth. Let me click add here. So give it a name, the targets, which can be basically any host pool, the task, so what would you like to be notified of, and so on and so forth. Run by, statuses, you can choose as well. And then of course you can configure which email addresses to apply this to or send this to, which is, by the way, I think it's under integrations. Let me look that up. Azure monitoring, no. Nerdio environment, yes, of course it's here. So email notifications, here you would link up your mailbox, and then you will be able to, use multiple email addresses to send notifications to. So we also have multiple monitoring options, very easy and straightforward to configure, as you can see here as well. And then the monitoring tab will pop up as well. So it won't be displayed once you have installed Manager for WVD. You need to enable one or multiple monitoring solutions first, just so you know. So like mentioned, we have a direct integration with MSIX app attach. We can upload MSIX app packages and convert them. We can work with existing MSIX app attach images, do version management and all those types of things. And then app attach can be configured on a per host pool level as well, as you can see here. So add in packages, assign users, and so on and so forth. Very straightforward to do. So that sort of brings me to the end of the demo. Let me hop over back to my slides, because there's something I wanted to mention at the end. We also have a Manager for WVD Community Edition. So this is to get to know the solution, to get to experience the power of automation and the magic behind it yourself. But just keep in mind, it's only meant for private Azure lab purposes, so it cannot be associated with a company or a customer environment or anything like that. Now, this was my presentation, or one big demo, you could say. So I would like to thank you very much for attending. I hope you found it of use, and maybe you got curious in some formal way. So please let me know. Use the contact details. And of course, please do not forget to visit our booth as well. I think there are a couple of nice prizes to win as well if you answer a couple of questions, so it might be interesting. And with that, I would like to wish you a very nice conference, and hopefully we will talk to each other soon. Thanks very much, and until next time. Bye-bye.